Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. And today, another book review. This time, Cave Girl by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I forgot to look and see when this was written. It doesn't even say. Imagine that. Penn USA. No, it doesn't say. That's weird. Usually a book will say when it was written. But I'm going on about 80 years ago, maybe more. He wrote this cute little novel. And I know you guys are thinking to yourself, how is this inspirational reading for Dungeons and Dragons? And I suppose it could be, but you'd have to, work your way into it. It's actually more of a game for something like one of the more pulpy role playing games. Almost Call of Cthulhu era, 1920s, 1930s, maybe even the 40s or 50s, where the main hero, a very Ichabod Crane sort of character, very bookish, very overly educated, you might say, to the point of sacrificing all physical attributes uh, for education and a higher social standing and upper crusty sort of character who finds himself, excuse me, shipwrecked on a unknown island populated by basically cave people and panthers and not really gorillas, but I think snakes and things like that. Nothing really super terrifying. No dinosaurs, which I was kind of disappointed in. But I guess he went and did all his dinosaur adventures when he did Pellucidar and Journey to the Center of the Earth sort of stories. But and you're probably wondering why I didn't read those books. But I saw this one when I received it in a book lot off eBay of several other books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and I just had to give this a read, thinking, it couldn't possibly be anywhere near as good as any of his other stories, and of course I was wrong. It's a very charming little book with a nice little map of the island and showing you different locations of different parts of the story. Now the story itself was, only a little over 200 pages. And for the most part, it was kind of predictable, for me at least. But, I've read so many books so that, I'm sure many ideas were actually taken from this book. But it would have made a really funny and I want to say almost silly 1980s movie. Uh, Disney could have actually turned this into a cartoon that would have been more or less safe for youngsters. And I kind of wish they would have done this, or somebody would have put this into a movie. Now it's kind of too late. But if you want something just just not what you would expect from an adventure story, because the character does go through a rather drastic transformation, and his sort of old fashioned values really dictate where the story goes. A lot of other writers would have went a completely different direction. Even Burroughs himself, when writing stories like this, the Venus series, Tarzan, John Carter to a lesser extent, would have taken this story a completely different route. And of course, it is a love story, but just a very, very old fashioned love story compared to the books I just mentioned. But if you ever get a chance to read this, if you get it in a book lot like I did, or you have it already and you never read it, I definitely recommend it at least once in your lifetime, just because it is so. It's almost a kid's book to begin with. Although maybe back in the time it really wouldn't be because of some of the issues like mating and things like that. But I think that today it's probably too late to go for a movie rendition of this. They would probably butcher it and destroy what was actually really good about it. Um, but I really I'm glad I read this book, and I've been actually waiting to do this review to the very end of the month, being that I read all the greats, excluding the Pellucidar series, just because I just really wanted to do this silly book and share it with you guys. If you haven't read it, um, you're probably wondering what could be so good about it. If you have read it, it's probably been a very long time since you have read it. But being that I wanted to go over all the different highs and lows of Edgar Rice Burroughs, career without touching on some of the westerns, which I'll probably save those for another time, maybe next year around this time, when I'm doing maybe another western month like we did last April. But I think I think this caps off the spirit of our channel. Trying to make you guys laugh and show you some fun stuff that isn't too serious. Because we don't ever take ourselves too seriously, especially if you watch the last night's episode, where we're out there to just really just enjoy this hobby and anything that connects to it, and this definitely does, just in a weird sort of way. So until next time, folks, I hope you get a chance to read this book, and if you already have, throw in some comments. I'd love to hear your take on it. I'm really glad I read this book, and hopefully one of these days the little guy will pull it out of the dusty library of ours and go, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. It's really a quick read, and it probably only took me half a day to finish this book, and one of these days I will go back and read it again. But for now, that's pretty much it, folks. Oh, and the cover, I didn't mention the cover, but I really love this old schooly style. It's actually, this scene actually is part of the story. A lot of books don't really do that. They'll just come up with something, a conglomeration of ideas. But this scene is actually part of the story. Artwork is really well done in a real simplistic style that I actually like from, probably, 80 years ago. But until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Little guy and I will be doing another craft, and then the last John Carter review of this month, and on to the show-off show. So have a great evening, folks. We're going to go have some pizza, and we'll talk to you real soon. Good night.